A story about Possum. Sometimes we have to learn to understand people and beings that are ugly, that we don't understand. Sometimes we want to put our mind into their mind and think like they think. Many years ago, when my boys were young, in fact, they weren't even teenagers. I don't know what happened to my stellar direction of young people. I directed a lot of them, but my own I had a little trouble with. And this particular day, the kids were outside with a rubber band. In fact, hundreds of rubber bands that strung from one side of the street to the other. And they had the brilliant idea that they would wait until a car approached, and then they would pull the rubber bands, and they would come up in front of the car, causing the motorist to slam on his brakes, gasp for air. It was early road rage. My kids were responsible for that, you know. And of course, I would have to go out and explain to the motorists why lawsuit probably wasn't a good idea, and tell them how I was going to reprimand these children who really had control of me and I didn't have control of them. I was doing that one day, explaining to the motorist, rubber bands don't hurt anybody. Calm down, mellow out. Peace is always better than violence. I observed two possums, an old possum and a small child possum. They looked both ways, and they started across the street. Suddenly, a car approached rapidly. Both possums looked at the car. The young possum didn't know possum etiquette, and he shot like a bullet across the street. The old possum, looking at the car, lay down on the pavement in front of the speeding car. My heart is pulsating rapidly. The car hit the possum's tail. The possum didn't even move. Why would God program a possum to play dead in front of a car? There are things we just don't understand. Now the possum, the car is gone, gets up, and it looks both ways now, and it works its way across the street. And when it got to the other side of the street, I watched the possum. He looked both ways. He was looking for that younger possum, but the younger possum was gone. It's so sad. There has to be a moral in that story. But it's too profound for us to go into. You'll have to watch the video several times to get the true meaning of the story of the possum. It reminds me, I tell a lot of stories. Most of the stories come from things that I've done to earn a living in this cruel world that we live in. And I haven't told many stories about driving the school bus. In service is next week. That means summer's over. It just started. I can't not believe this. But let's put all that aside. I've been a Franciscan brother. I have been a broadcaster. And I, in my retirement, have been a bus driver. Bus drivers have a different relationship with students than a teacher has with students. And sometimes I wonder which has the most influence. So I thought I'd tell you a story about driving the bus, because sometimes driving the bus has greater influence on me than it does the students. Sometimes driving the bus makes me really think about life. When I first started driving the bus, this was probably 7 years ago, I was contemplating the difference in the way the kids treat a bus driver compared to the way they treat a teacher. Having done both, I could see there was a great difference, and I was thinking of the profound aspects of this entire thing. And every day I would pass two buses. And these buses looked like school buses, but they weren't. They were from a prison where prisoners were taken out in these buses every day, and they would work picking up trash. I don't know what. But anyway, it was cheap labor for the state. And every day when I passed the buses, I would wave, because there's a rule with commercial drivers, you wave at each other. It's not because you're trying to be friendly, really. It's, do you see me? I see you. That's what it means. So we've established eye contact. On one of these buses I would wave at, and the driver would always wave back. Oh, he was so nice. But the other bus, the driver never waved back. I began to look at the buses so I would recognize them. And I said to myself, I am no longer going to wave at that bus again. So I stopped. I didn't wave. That went on for 2 days. And then, stay with me, this is a very profound story. Then I thought, as I approached this bus on the third day, I want to see what that driver looks like. Never waves. And I looked, but I saw something very strange that made me do a lot of thinking. There was the driver. He was fixated, looking ahead. I don't think he ever looked to see if there was another bus coming. But I saw behind the driver, and there behind him were 20 people, 20 prisoners, all waving, madly, frantically waving. I had passed that bus for a month, and all I saw was the driver. Those prisoners in the back, I never even saw. Made me think. That's another profound story. But I think sometimes we jump to conclusions. And I don't know if it meant that I didn't like the prisoners. I don't know what it meant. But I damn well should have seen them, and I didn't. I wanted to say something about McCain because he just teased me off. And I wanted to say it really bothers me because I like to be a YouTube partner, and then I watch videos today and I see John McCain advertising on their videos. It has to do with credibility. I would not want to be associated with anything to do with John McCain. But as a professional, I won't say that, but I don't think I'll become a YouTube partner either, because I like to have control of things that are endorsed on the stuff that I do. I hope I haven't offended. But life is the way it is, and sometimes you just offend people, if you will excuse me.